actually sleeping on the streets or sleeping in cars. That's not, and I'm talking about on a semi-permanent basis.
Yes.
That's not to say that there aren't people, and some people may be passing through. But in the bigger centres, you see it's big news in Auckland and Wellington and Christchurch. But certainly in Masterton, it's not a huge issue in terms of that homelessness, but a home need to get out of people's garages to get into rental houses. That's probably the biggest thing for us.
And Trust House is the only sort of organised large rental organisation in the Wairarapa and up to Dannevirke, is it not? There aren't any other government housing?
No, there's no Housing New Zealand in Masterton or in this area. Trust House purchased these houses from Housing New Zealand back in 1999. So there isn't a Housing New Zealand presence.
No.
There are lots of private landlords through the private rental companies, and places like Masterton Property Rentals, LJ Hooker, and all the other private rentals. They have hundreds of houses on their books as well.
They do, and also the council have the council flats.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
I can't remember how many they've got.
No.
It's between 50 and 70, I think.
I think that deals with more elderly.
Yeah, it's pensioner.
Does?
It's
Yes.
pensioner units in Panama Village and a few other places throughout the town.
Yeah.
But we're the low rental income. Our rents are set below what's called the lower quartile.
Yes.
And so we have been renting like a normal landlord, but at lower rents for the past nearly 20 years. However, in the past 4 years, we've become what's called a community housing provider, which means eligible new tenants can get income-related rent. So that's now treating our new tenants the same as Housing New Zealand tenants.
So you would work with work and income on that?
We work a lot with work and income.
Yeah.
We have just started working with Pathways, which is part of the WISE group and Link People. Pathways, because we've built 8 houses in Kiripuni Street, which we lease to Pathways and deal with Matt, of course.
Yes.
And we work with another emergency housing called Emerge Aotearoa.
Yes.
And they do emergency housing. They've just started coming into this area. So, in Trust House, we'll work with anybody that we need to and anybody that we can to get people into housing and to get them out of their emergency need.
When it comes to the housing, if you've got a person that's been in your trust house for a long time, you wouldn't ever say, well, you should try and find a pensioner house or something like that. That would be their home for as long as they could afford to pay for it?
Absolutely. We don't force people out who are able to pay the rent. Sometimes, of course, as families leave home and it leaves the parents or one parent that's left and they've got a 3 or 4 bedroom house, their income comes down. We will try and move them if they wish to be moved to a smaller unit.
So that would be
more
just
suitable
like
for their size, but that's it's on them, really.
And that would be something that you would approach them and discuss with them to see if they could have something that's more comfortable for them. I know that it's, as people get older, it is really quite hard to leave the family home, but most people in reality do. Not many people stay in their family home forever, because for one thing, it's impossible to keep it warm for one person, isn't it?
That's the thing. I mean, we have there's one of our tenants, a lady who has lived in the same house from when it was brand new, 60 odd years ago. She's still in that house today. And she's happy to stay there. She can afford to pay the rent there. So she's still there. It's a 3-bedroom house. There are people who say, well, we should be forcing her to move on to allow a family to move in there. But when these houses were built back in the 50s and 60s, they were built mostly as 3-bedroom houses. So most of our housing setup is 3-bedroom houses.
Yes.
We have the odd 2 and 1, a couple of 4s and 1 5-bedroom house, but the majority of our stock is 3-bedroom houses.
Yes, and some of them were 2-bedroom with a sun porchy little room off the sitting room.
Some people call that a 3-bedroom, some people call that a 2 and a bit, or a 2-bedroom with a sun porch.
Yes. Yeah.
Unfortunately, nowadays people are using them as bedrooms because the need for housing is there.
I mean, if people have got choice, do they state how big the houses are? I mean, some people are quite happy just to have a 2-bedroom house but do you say young people automatically think that you should just go into a 3-bedroom house? No,
when we have new tenants, so we've been talking about existing tenants, and this lady and others who are 50 odd years in their houses, moved in under Housing New Zealand. Generally they would had a family, and so they're a different category. With new tenants, we will try and put them into a house that meets their needs. So if it's a couple alone, then it's a 1 or 2-bedroom house, if we have any, because as I was saying, most of our houses are 3-bedroom houses. But we do try and put them into the correct size house for their family unit.
So in a sense, by doing that, there is a possibility they will be looking for a exchange later. I mean, that's exchange houses.
It's a Scottish way of saying it, that is, we don't do exchanges, but we do transfers.
Yes.
Under the Scottish system, you would find another family and exchange the house from a 1 or 2 to a 4 or a 3, depending on your family need. That's just me showing my age now. But they can put in for a transfer if they need a bigger or a smaller house. It's not often people go down the way though.
No,
unless there's a financial need.
Right, I'm just getting a look from Wesley, so yes, we'll have some music. Thank you.
When he asks for a date, tell him no, tell him no. Tell him no, tell him no. When he asks for a kiss, tell him no, tell him no. It's alright to go to a party. It's alright to have some fun. It's alright to take in a movie, but don't let him be the one. Tell him no, tell him no. If he offers his ring, tell him no, tell him no. Did he tell you that he loved you? And did you thrill to his charms? And did you feel much more better when he held you in his arms? Tell him no, tell him no. When he asks for a date, tell him no, tell him no. Tell him no, tell him no, tell him no.
Oh, if only you could hear what we talk about when we're not on air. And then we have to repeat ourselves half the time. But yes, we were talking about the changes in, I suppose, of houses 40, 50 years ago when they were first built.
Yeah, when the houses were first built, they were designed to a number of different looks. No house within the same area was going to be exactly the same. There was about 150 different styles and setups based on an English cottage format, really. all mostly on about a quarter of an acre section, a 3-bedroom house on a quarter acre section. That was the kids' play area. It was also the family's vegetable plot. And of course, nowadays, you look at these houses and think, actually, not many people have vegetable plots, and the kids are on PlayStations. But once again, that's me showing my age.
Yeah, but also my parents had hens. So there was a chook house in the backyard, as well as the veggie garden and the fruit trees.
We still do have one or two with hens, although I think the neighbours aren't too keen on them. But what we did recently, just talking about that thing, is we had a 3-bedroom house in Kurupuni Street that had a huge backyard that was longer than a cricket pitch.
Yes.
And that's one of the first things that Trust House has done for many years. It's the first set of houses we've built, is we've taken away a 3-bedroom house and put in 8 units, 2 2-bedroom units and 6 1-bedroom units. And that is now where Matt's works, or Matt's staff works in Kurupuni Street. So that, you know, we've leased that to Pathways through Link People and Wise Group. And so we've turned a 3-bedroom house that was underutilised, the whole area, into an area with 8 units there for other people to use, other tenants, and I'll bring Matt in here nicely to that, and he can talk about Kurupuni Street.
So I guess the flavour of the conversation so far has been the type of accommodation that's provided historically, and the size, and about what you do with it. And I think the first thing that springs to mind when you talk about subdividing or creating lots of housing in a small space is that it must be cramped. I know that a lot of the neighbours in Kurupuni Street were really surprised when they had the opportunity to visit Kurupuni Street, just how big those units are. You would think that housing for 10 people on that site would be really small, and it's absolutely not. They've been very cleverly designed so that they've got a real sense of space. Admittedly, the thing that you lose is garden. But as you were saying, Craig, you know, I think a lot of people are less focused on needing garden space now, because people don't want the chooks and the veggie patches and so forth. Although we as an organisation, and you know, looking at being well strategies for people with physical and mental health problems, really recognise the value of being outside, growing your own veggies and having your own, you know, your own food sources. So we've moved into an area where there is less space outside, but inside we've got an awesome property.
We have, and I must admit that, like you were saying about each house is individually different. Up at Kurupuni, they're not all the same inside the house. There's a slight difference.
They've been decorated differently,
but you know, there's differences, and I think that's important as well for any person living in a house. They like to have their own identity in a way, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's very true, but I think the most important thing in a market where demand is so high and where that drives prices, rental prices up, you know, when you've got people that are on such a limited income that as soon as you get into the late 200s, 300 brackets, it's really stretching, even earlier than that, stretching people's ability to be able to rent a smaller place that is really well insulated, that's got double glazing, that has got a cheap heating source, and because it's a small plot, is so much cheaper in terms of rent, you know, like by $100 a week cheaper. I don't think individuality is the top of the agenda, to be honest with you.
Well, no, probably not. But I think that sometimes when you're in that house, I think they would take that pride of being a little bit different.
I think you make that yourself, don't you? You bring your own furniture in and you paint the wall the way you want it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. That was another conversation we was having, I think, Craig, about how years ago the ownership of the person living in that house, they took on, I suppose, the responsibility of making it into their own home, of putting their implant in there. Or we probably won't say about changing a fireplace, probably. But yeah, it was huge, I think. And I think, again, that's a society changes that, you know, we can look back in history and we can talk about this. Yeah. But I mean, you know, today we're looking focus on today and how people live and what they're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. I can't really talk about New Zealand a number of years ago, as you might guess by my accent. I'm not originally from New Zealand. So I don't know how the Housing New Zealand or Housing Co-op or whatever it was called in the good old days, how they actually dealt with tenants. What I can say is that a lot of our older tenants that have been tenanting those houses from Housing New Zealand days and older trust house tenants still do look after their house, and it's their home. They treat it as their home, and they do a lot of work that other generations, shall we say, don't expect that they should have to do. And so that becomes more on the landlord. And of course the law says that the landlord should do all these different things, and there's no issues with that. But I think one of it's the attitude to looking after that house.
Yes.
That's probably one of the biggest things, and I'm not being particularly politically correct by saying that a lot of the younger generation don't see it as being their house. It's somewhere that they live. Unfortunately, they have to pay rent on it, and they don't necessarily care for it the way some of the older tenants do. But I think that's a societal change rather than a specific area or people or anything like that. That's not to say we don't have good young tenants as well.
Well, yeah, and I think it is. It's probably, again, I mean, we're not going to go into the political side of things or the change of the generation, but yeah, I mean, for when you've got a few grey hairs, you probably do see that changes, and you can reflect back on it. But yeah, and the generation today, they're only living a life of what they've come up from. You know, we say, the youngsters today, but you know, a lot of it is just because that's how it's been for them. You know,
a lot
they just don't suddenly produce themselves into the manner they are today.
Yeah, learned behaviour and things like that.
But I also think young people sort of go through a rebellious stage, and especially if they're for the first time away from home and they're renting, and there's a group of them, you know, they forget about the fact that Mum said, put your dirty clothes out, wash them, keep your room tidy, and all those things. And for a year or two, kids just don't think like that. And it's only when they actually start to mature a bit that they start to really think about caring for where they live and how they look after a property. Do you find that? Or
Yeah, I mean, when we do inspections, it's not so much on the untidiness with the kids' clothes on the floor. I mean, my kids will hate me for saying this, but my kids are not particularly tidy in the house, living with us at the moment. But it's more than just the untidiness. It's a lot of the time, I think, it's lack of care, or maybe they don't know how to care. And sort of moving on from that, and I think one of the issues that comes through that's seen is that they don't know how to budget, they don't know how to cook, and I'm not talking about single people, I'm talking about couples with kids.
Yes.
And so they're on a limited income. They want a car, they want to be able to go to the chip shop, and because they don't know how to cook at home and budget properly. I think that's got a lot to do with it as well.
yeah.
That's probably a difference. It's the word want rather than I need. Yeah. And I think that's probably where the big subtle
Well, I think
difference.
the definition of need has changed over the years. I think people see things as baseline expectations of life that 20 and 30 and 40 and beyond would not have been seen as a necessity. You know, a big screen TV or whatever it may be. I don't think anybody would argue these days that having a house without a TV is unusual. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's unusual not to have a TV in our house, whereas 50 years ago it would have been quite the reverse, perhaps.
And I think having a TV today is part of a need. It's seen as that if you don't have a TV, you're actually in the poverty line as well, isn't it?
And
You know,
same with a computer. The families
True.
have,
And I think
makes it very difficult.
that's probably the latest and the biggest issue is access to the internet.
Yes.
Because these days, to live and to be able to function with all the things that you need to do, actual internet access is that actually is a necessity.
It is.
There's lots of work going on across communities about trying to make internet access as free as it can be, because that's the thing that frees people for information and knowledge and communication and community engagement, and that's a real lifeline for a lot of people.
It is a norm now, isn't it? I mean, as you said, it is top on norm that most people have the little wee plastic box as a cell phone, and if you don't, you're given a look. Why not? You know? Yeah.
The interesting point that I'm just listening to you talking about the younger generation, though, is that I think, standing on the other side of the fence a little bit, there's always a risk of looking at what could be minority groups, so a younger age group, people with physical health problems, people with mental health problems or addictions, for instance, as being drivers of problems within an area. And, you know, if we looked at the statistics of how many people are within age groups, or actually this is fairly small groups of people, but as Craig was saying earlier on off air, is that, you know, it's the small numbers of people that can create real problems that then drive the prices up and create problems for everybody else. So it's always the minority. But our important message here, and the thing that I'd like to talk about a little bit today, is actually about the stigma of being in one of those minority groups. So from my perspective, it's about mental health, but we could be talking about different ethnic groups, we could be talking about the youth or the younger groups that are desperately trying to move out of home, that can barely afford a rental and certainly not a mortgage. Who are learning to live away from home.
Yeah, and it's the help that's there that we want to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that we can improve
Absolutely.
the conditions and improve their knowledge, and we're talking about budgeting.
Absolutely,
Yes.
To give you an example of how that's a truism really in mental health, is that we have the contract locally with the DHB to provide people with support work in their homes or in supported accommodation, people with mental health and addictions issues. And over the last year to 18 months, I would say that the number of referrals that we receive that are specifically around accommodation issues creating a great deal of stress, either because it's unaffordable or because it's unavailable, or because the process of moving is so difficult and challenging, is really escalated. You know, we've gone from having a minority, a small amount of people, maybe out of 100 referrals, maybe there'd be 10 or 15 that would be some accommodation related, to more like about 60 to 70% have got some accommodation issue. And some people we're having to say, you know, sorry, we can't help, because primarily their issues are about accommodation and not about mental health, and that's not what we're contracted to do. We try and blur the boundaries as much as possible, because we don't like to turn anybody away, and if people are really suffering distress and anxiety and mood problems or other kinds of mental health issues relating to this, then we'll try and help our best, but our availability and funding is limited. And we've got to focus on people that primarily have got mental health problems.
Yeah, so it brings to mind one person who rang, and the problem that he had was he wanted to get out of a situation. It's all to do with accommodation, how you get on with your fellow flatmates. But he didn't have any way of moving the stuff out because he couldn't drive.
And that is probably something that we see a lot when people are looking for a home, is the being convenient to the centre of a town, really, more so they can be eligible to get into town, because a lot of them, their transport is they walk.
Sure, for those,
you know,
I mean, the majority of the work that we're talking about is kind of Masterton centric, to be fair.
It is.
But I think it's harder for people that are in some of the smaller towns in the Wairarapa, because the availability is much less.
Yes, the transport's one problem.
But I mean, there are ways to manage that. I mean, having a conversation, for instance, with some of the removal companies will negotiate a little bit of a payment deal. Alternatively, you can go to WINS, and WINS will help out with grants to help people move, particularly if people are already on a benefit, and also if there's a real distress or problem related to the move. You know, if you've got to get out quickly, if you've got kids, for instance, or if you've got a dependent or vulnerable adult living with you, those are things you can get help moving. People that we work with, if our priority is to help them to manage things as normally as possible.
And I think part of the stigma that you was talking about is a lot of people just don't know where to go and ask for help.
Absolutely.
You know, and
most of our work is signposting and helping to go to appointments and find, because there are community agencies out there. You just have to go and find them.
Yeah, and that's the same with us, with our work. A lot of it is knowing people just don't know where to go for help, and we direct people to different areas like your sort of pathways and Trust House and work and income. I think people have got this feeling that work and income won't help them, but if they do know what to ask, they do get help.
Again, we have to be careful not to generalise, because this is like one story out of many.
Yes.
But I hear stories where one of the biggest issues around going to WINS is the wait, and then the application process, because they can be lengthy. And you know, having to sit for 2 or 3 hours and wait for somebody, or wait for an appointment in a week's time. Sometimes things are immediate and urgent, and so therefore people want an urgent response. And I think it's fair to say that WINS are pretty busy with an awful lot of this kind of work, so we have to have a degree of patience, but they will help if they can.
And I think this is, again, you were talking about the internet. WINS actually do promote quite a lot of their services online.
My MSD, I think it's called.
And I
an
think
app that you can get for your phone.
And this does actually create problems for some people as well, because often they have the phone but they don't have the money to be able to use it.
Or they just don't have that ability to use their phone for information. You know, some people can't.
There's still a lot of non-smartphones out there. Everybody thinks that everyone's got a smartphone and internet access this day. That's not true. There's lots of people that don't have that.
Yes.
And it is, and it's confusing. I mean, to be honest, you go into this app, as we said, but unless you know where to go and what you're looking for, it can be quite difficult. But I mean, I suppose it's all part of that learning and finding out who you can come. And as Wesley said, you know, at the CAB, we do have people pop in, and we do, you know, hopefully we give them the right directions of where to go. So on that note, if you do need to contact us at the CAB, we're on 06 377 0078, or if you ring the 0800 number 367 222, or even pop down to see us at 43 Perry Street. We actually do have a computer there that we can actually sit down with you and help you to go through the process of applying and things like that. Let's have some music.
Your picture on my wall, your letter on my bed, and darling, I recall everything you said. Darling, I love you. Oh, if you were here once more in my embrace, I'd kiss away each tear from your angel face. Angel face, angel face, angel face, darling, I love you. It's been so long since I held you so tight. It's been so long since I kissed you goodnight. I don't need a moon to thrill to all your charms. Won't you come back soon and fill my empty arms? Angel face, angel face, angel face, darling, I love you. Darling, I love you.
Is it,
Okay,
on
then.
hold.
Yes, Wesley, we caught you out talking.
Sorry.
Now, what was it?
Well, it is quite controversial, and as you say, it can become political. But we are not giving our opinions. We're just giving what is actually happening and what is muted.
So one of the things that I wanted to say, if that's okay, and then I think this will probably lead into some just information about governmental strategy, really,
Yes.
is talked a little bit about what our priorities are with supporting people with mental health issues. But what I wanted to say is that I'm really conscious that in terms of mental health and general well-being, one of the first and most core things to being well is having a comfortable, warm, dry home. So we all heard about problems with leaky homes and having damp arenas, areas to live in, and what that means for children's health and older people and so forth. And I think it's probably a given that if you've got a roof over your head and you're warm when you go to bed at night, you're going to feel an awful lot better. And I think that's our agenda within Pathways. We Link People is part of also Wise Group, as mentioned earlier by Craig. And Link People is an organisation under Wise Group that is working really hard across the country to raise standards and awareness around the need for housing and provide people with housing wherever we can. But that brings forward the social housing agenda, and we talked about state housing and the lack of availability locally. I think it's really important for people to understand, and this isn't an opinion per se, it's just a statement of what I understand to be the reality, and Craig can clarify if needed, is that the Wairarapa doesn't have any state housing and has a small amount of social housing through trusts and so forth, because there is a lack of awareness of the need and the demand. The way that the data or the statistics are collected is by people that apply for social housing. And because people don't apply because there isn't any, the government doesn't know that there is the demand that we need. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So
Yes.
the more applications that there are for people to get social housing, even whether it's available or not, the more awareness there is that there is a demand locally, and therefore the profile goes up and the funding increases. And that's a really big issue, particularly for people with health issues.
And I would agree with that, because as soon as you mention, have you applied for social housing, you're met with a blank look. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's like, and people are not aware of that process of a.
No, that's changed within the last sort of 3 or 4 years. As I said earlier on, Trust House became a community housing provider just over 4 years ago, and that means now that we can take new tenants under income-related rent, like Housing New Zealand. And so the law changed before the government changed. So the old government brought in a change of law under what's called the social housing programme. And they looked at, it's now called, I think, the Public Housing Register. People call it the Social Housing Register, the Social Housing Wait List,
Yes.
whatever you want to call it. And there was no demand in the Wairarapa because there was no social housing that they could get income-related rent. That's slowly going up. As Matt was saying, that people don't know about applying to be on the Social Housing Register. So if we have somebody that comes into Trust House, the first thing we do is point them towards the Social Housing Register, being assessed for the Social Housing Register. Now that is just, and I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it is just the normal working income number. It's an 0800 number.
Yes.
It's the normal number. You phone up there and say that you wish to be assessed for the Social Housing Register. And what that does is that starts a process within Work and Income and the Ministry of Social Development about getting that person assessed for their housing need. Now, it does take a wee bit of time, and there is unfortunately normally about a week's wait before they will contact you back and have quite a lengthy questionnaire with you. But it covers your housing need, it covers your income, it covers your family's health and other issues that may affect your need for social housing. If you are assessed, and I'll use the word successfully, to get onto the social housing register, you get onto that register within the Wairarapa or any other area within New Zealand that you would like to go to. Now, at the moment, the last time I looked, there were about 30 families on the social housing register in the Wairarapa. We don't have, at this moment in time, the availability of those houses. So they will still wait a bit. Just because you're on the register doesn't automatically mean you will get a house straight away. But what it does mean is that when you do get a house through Trust House, you get income-related rent. And what that means is you pay 25% of your income, what working income called your assessable income, you pay that in rent. So if it's a single person, and I'm generalising here because I'm not working income and I don't have all the details, but a single person's income is on a benefit is round about $215 a week without the accommodation supplement. And so if they get into a house through Trust House, they will only pay about $53 a week in rent. If it's a bit more, it's 25% of that assessable income.
Which does make things more manageable. I mean, because it's the fear of that rental. And I mean, I think as soon as you go and look at a rental, you look at how much it's going to cost rather than the house.
That is only through Trust House. So you couldn't do it through a private housing provider or a private landlord.
So is this because originally when Trust House was set up, they had a contract with the government to provide?
No, we didn't have a contract. And that was part of the issue 20 odd years ago, before my time. So Trust House bought the houses in 1999, where all Housing New Zealand tenants were paying what they called market rent. And there's different definitions of market rent. And then in 2000, the new Labour government then came in and they brought in income-related rent for Housing New Zealand tenants. So that has meant that over the last 20 years, Trust House sitting tenants have lost out on that income-related rent. 4 years ago, we got the community housing provider registration status, the first in New Zealand. And it meant that only new tenants, so that the government of that time had said sitting tenants don't qualify, unfortunately. Now, we are pushing for that. The new government have said the same, and I'm not a political person, it's just a fact that both governments, both sides of the middle, shall we say, have said that it's going to cost too much money to get sitting tenants to become income-related rent, whereas had they been in a Housing New Zealand house all this time, they would already be on income-related rent.
So would that mean that the difference is paid, topped up
by the government?
So you've got somebody on income-related rent in your house, in the Trust House. And the difference is paid by the government.
By the government, by Ministry of Social Development.
So
the
you're
tenant
not
pays, say, 53. Say the rent is, we'll simplify it to $200 a week, which is about standard for a Trust House 2-bedroom house. So if you're paying $50 a week income-related rent, the government pays the other $150 to Trust House.
That's quite a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot of money.
It does.
It means that the community housing provider doesn't lose out, but it means the tenant gains. And it's all about being better for the tenant. And it means that they've got more money to be able to spend on health, to be able to go and pay for a prescription if they have to pay for a prescription.
And to give you an idea of how we can use that to our advantage as a healthcare provider is that we provided supported accommodation in Opaki Road previously, and people that stayed with us were renting directly and paying one bill, and it covered everything, utilities, not food, but it covered utilities and rent and so forth. But that meant that we were the landlords as well as the caregivers, and it sets up a dynamic really of being beholden to us, really, and it's old-fashioned. It's a group home type environment where we've been able to partner with Link People and Trust House, and everybody that's moved over to Kiripuni Street has now got individual tenancies with their names on the tenancies. They've got that sense of ownership that we were talking about earlier on, and they pay rent directly under the income-related rent scheme.
So and
they're no worse off than they were before, but everything is in their name, and that's huge. It really makes a big difference to people that are in the middle of their recovery.
And I don't have to agree with Matt there. When you hear them talking about, they're actually talking about, and there's a pride actually, because they're out talking about their rent, they're talking about their power bill and all that, and it's in a sense, I think it's actually helping with their confidence as well, that they're a part of society in a way, because they're doing exactly the same as the person next door and they're living.
Well, especially as you sort of get the feeling that if somebody's got a mental health problem, that they're not quite there mentally, but most of the people are very intelligent people that have just got an illness that happens to be mental. And they're really capable.
To qualify that a little bit, I think one of the misconceptions around mental health is that the term mental health would indicate a level of decline around intellectual capability, and the reality is, like in any health situation, your ability to manage stress and deal with difficult situations and problem solve and have, I guess, cognitive or intellectual challenges come your way declines as a result of the illness that you've got. You get that with strokes, you get it with diabetes, you get it with asthma, you get it with respiratory problems, you also get it with depression and anxiety and psychosis. People are people. So there's the hardwiring that comes from birth, and then there's what you learn as you grow up. So the level of intelligence and capability people have got is about what they learn and the social skills that they've taught. And interestingly, we were talking about minorities earlier. And like the youth of today, if we want to use that kind of language, the younger generation, the rules are different. And so what we have as an expectation is not the expectation that they have, and they do things differently. It doesn't make it right or wrong, it's just differently. For people with mental health problems, I think the reality is we need to focus on the fact that they've got an illness and how best to live with that, rather than categorise people as having reduced capacity. Because the reality is they don't. They just have to work a damn sight harder to be able to manage the day-to-day stresses. And that's the bit where we need more empathy and sympathy rather than judgment and stigma.
Yeah.
But isn't that how judgment and stigma takes place, is because people just don't understand, so it's easier to put them in a box and put them away over there and make it tidy.
We did that socially. We did that across the world for 100 years, didn't we? It's only 30 years ago that everywhere was deinstitutionalised and people started living in homes in their community.
And we're still probably in that breakthrough era of
for sure,
of change within the public, and things.
Human nature takes a long time to shift.
And whether you're whatever wellness you're in, you all like to try and put your own security blankets around you, and if anything outside of it, you sometimes, I don't want that, I'm not sure about that, we push it away, or we choose to do something about it to try and take, I suppose, a reflection from yourself away. In a way, it's often our own fears that we're actually pushing away rather than what is out there.
Yep.
I suppose in all of us, we've got weaknesses mentally that quite often you cover up, or you look okay, but inside, underneath, you're battling with a certain weakness that you might have. But you manage life.
I think that's there is always the risk of pathologising your experience of life. There is nothing wrong with stress. No. There is nothing wrong with feeling anxious. Yes. Actually they're good survival techniques. Is they make you more aware of the area around you, and they make you more focused on what it is that you need to achieve. It's when they become unbalanced, so that there's more stress and more anxiety than you can cope with. Then it's about learning new skills in order to be able to bring your balance back again. And I think that's the thing, is people as Moira said, we're in that phase where people are adjusting their perspectives around things, and mental health is becoming more of an accepted part of general society, so that it's not hidden away and it's not stigmatised and judged in the same way. But also, I think there's a real shift into people, and this is a personal opinion working in mental health for 25 years now, is that there are also people who are experience that a little bit but have no resilience whatsoever because they've not been taught it or they've not learned how to grow it. And so therefore what they might be experiencing is huge for them, but if in my context or Craig's context would be really small. And the bit we need to remember is they're experiencing it as they experience it. I can't use my ability to manage to judge them. Because that's it, you know, they'll never be able to do it the way I do it, and why should they?
And I think that's the difficulty that everybody puts. My previous job was as a police officer. Round about the time they decentralised a lot of the mental health units and things, and it became in the UK what was called care in the community, and you forget, and it's something that, this is a personal thing, something that you have to learn yourself, is that when you're dealing with people, and I know I'm quite judgmental at times, but you still have to learn to say, well, just because I can do that, it doesn't mean that they can. One of the things, talking about the housing side of it, that the previous government had started bringing into New Zealand was what's called Housing First. It's an American programme, and it's been on the news. I think just last week, the present government are going to spend about $100 million, I think they said, bringing the Housing First programme into New Zealand in a bigger and better way. And the whole point, as Matt was saying earlier on, is the first thing to do, no matter what the issues are, whether it be mental health, addictions, general homelessness, lack of knowledge on where to go, is to get these people into safe houses, to get that in. And so that the whole point of Housing First is exactly what it says. Get them into the house first, then deal with the issues. Because in the past, people have said, oh, we're not going to take a drug addict, we're not going to take somebody with mental health issues because they're not going to look after the house. Get them clean first, or get them sorted first, then we will house them. And the Housing First programme, started by an American guy called Sam Tesembris, I think it is, said get them into the house first, get them off the homelessness, you know, because that in itself is a big stigma. Being homelessness, they don't have an address that they can go to work and income with to get things sent to them. They don't have all these things. Get them into the house, deal with the issues, and then sustain them in that house, which is a fantastic thing for homelessness. One of the things, certainly in Trust House at the moment, is we still have people who can't cope. It may well be that they've not got mental health issues, but they've not got that learned, the learned or the learnedness of being able to cook a meal, being able to go to work and income, being able to speak to different people, and they get into, it's generally rental debt, but they then don't know where to go. One of the things that Trust House are doing more of than they have in the past is looking to partner with local services. For example, Citizens Advice. One of the biggest things we've got at the moment is through the Wairarapa Free Budget Advice Service with Grant Howard and his team, who do fantastic work to get people to help budget them. I'm also on the board of Connecting Communities Wairarapa, and of course the Super Grands do a lot of help, and they do a lot of work, and as it turns out, I'm actually the chairperson of Te Awhina Cameron Community House down in Stuart Crescent there, and they do a lot of that work as well, and Donna and her volunteers down there try and help people. And I think that's the biggest thing, is helping the people that don't necessarily know how to do it, and they need advice and they need help. They don't know how to clean a house, they don't know how to cook a dinner, they don't know how to care for different parts of a house or different people within that house, and it's that support that's very important as well, I think.
being right next door to the community centre, we liaise often with the different groups in there, and the connecting communities is very much part of what we do as far as being with them at meetings. And I talked to Bev the other day just about the cooking that they're doing and setting up the meals for people to be delivered through agencies.
Yeah.
And it's tremendous. Yes. Are they renaming super grants?
I'm not 100% sure what super grands are doing at the moment,
but it's all to do with helping people and teaching them how to cook.
And I think that's probably the most important thing as a community, and this is a personal view, is that the support network has to be there. I recently did some research, and one of the things that was found, and it's not groundbreaking from my point of view, I didn't find it, but there's been other researches that's been found all over the world that says that, and Matt will probably agree with this, hopefully, is that for places like working income, as Matt was saying earlier on, there's a waiting time. There's things you have to do. You've got to know how to do My MSD. And for people who struggle to potentially just live daily, this is too much for them. So they need that signpost, they need that navigator, they need that assistance to go to working income or to go to different places to get that help. Because the government, and I'm using it with a small g, all these departments, it says this is what our requirements are, and you have to meet these requirements, and people can't meet that, so they do need assistance. There needs to be more collaboration and more assistance given to people who need that help.
And as you were saying about the CAB, part of our role is that we just give them the footprints, really, the footsteps to go forward, and often it's just a start.
Yeah.
And I would have to say Pathways is similar. It often is just being that support person and enabling them to go forward.
I think because we're obviously contracted to work with people with mental health and addictions, I think it takes that step further where, often we'll do the practical support and help with the forms and give advice and maybe do a bit of prep beforehand and a bit of management of how you feel about it after the event and so forth. But our remit and our drive is very much for people to work with somebody to do it themselves, not to take over. I don't want us to be creating institutions in the community or proliferating institutions in the community. But there are times where we need to, and I just want to be clear that we will do it when we need to. I've got a trailer. I do bring it in sometimes, and we help people shift if they're really, really stuck and things are about to crash around their ears. We'll pile it on the trailer and we'll get our hands dirty to do it. We can be practical as well.
There's that difference, I think, between learned helplessness and learned behaviour.
True.
And
absolutely
educating people how to do it,
how to look after themselves,
and not taking over their life, but helping them with their life.
But I often remember, when you're learning something new, and it may be cooking, that the person who's showing you often does it themselves, whereas and it's the same with anything that you're learning. If you can practice it or learn it yourself, do it yourself, with somebody guiding you, it'll stay. You'll remember how to do it. But if somebody says, you boil an egg, and you're just watching, you've no idea when to take the egg out or anything like that. But if you do it yourself, the first time you boil an egg, and if you put it in for 10 minutes, it comes out rock hard. You've overcooked it.
I'm not a good teacher. I'm one that takes over, but I do need to try and stand back and say, this is how you do it, so go ahead and do it.
Well, anyway, unfortunately, I shall have to take over and say that we probably could go on for another hour, but our time has run out, and I would like to thank our guests, Grant and Matt, today, and ROFM 92.7. So everyone take care. Hopefully we'll get these two back on again at some other time. And we'll catch up later. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Citizens Advice Bureau is where you talk and we listen.
But here on Cab Talk, we talk and you listen. Cab Talk. every Tuesday at 10 o'clock on Arrow FM.
And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life. If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps. Just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. Hey, always look on the bright side of life. Come on. Always look on the bright side of life. For life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your scene, give the audience a grin. Enjoy it, it's your last chance anyhow. So always look on the bright side of death. Just before you draw your terminal breath. Life's a piece of shit when you look at it. Life's a laugh and death's a joke, it's true. You'll see it's all a show, keep them laughing as you go. Everybody's crazy, they don't know. Probably think we're crazy too. Everybody's stupid, except for me and a couple of my friends. Everybody's crazy, but they don't know. Probably think we're crazy too.
We are all born to be free, but in the desperate times that we live in, sometimes you need a bit of help and guidance. Born to be Free with Judy Omundson is a show that reaches out to the community and beyond to encourage people into a new and free life. To do this, they have regular interviews with ministries around New Zealand and overseas. Guests on the program share their stories of how they have had a miraculous change in their lives. Join Judy for Born to be Free every Wednesday from 11:15am till 12:15pm, or listen to the podcasts at arrowfm.co.nz. Born to be Free is proudly sponsored by WM Bosch on Arrow FM.
This is Arrow FM 92.7, your community access radio station.
Bracelets were ivory of lapis and gold. My headdress shone brightly. I sang to exalt the boy they were crowning, the rings of a pharaoh on Tutankhamun's head. They placed on his head the cap and the mitre. They placed in his hands the scepters of power. I lifted my voice in praise of the hour, for I was the singer in Tutankhamun's band. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs with a different rhyme. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs of a different rhyme. Sing me songs with a different rhyme. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs with a different rhyme. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs with a different rhyme. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs with a different rhyme. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs with a different rhyme. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs with a different rhyme. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs with a different rhyme. 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 Sing me songs with a differ My rings were of jasper, of Nubian gold and white alabaster. I sang to exalt the spread of his kingdom, the sway and extension of Tutankhamun's land. We sailed down the Nile in 9 royal barges, past temples and shrines, past flowering papyrus. I lifted my voice in praise of Osiris, for I was the singer in Tutankhamun's band. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs with a different rhyme. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs with a different rhyme. I sang for the king, my beads were of onyx, my belt was of gold, his name wrought upon it. I sang to lament the hour of his passing, and how he was taken before he was a man. They readied his corpse for rites of embalming, with ointments and oils and linen for binding. And when I shall die, my corpse shall lie by him, for I was the singer in Tutankhamun's band. Sing me songs of a different time. Sing me songs with a different rhyme.
bad. So that I can bring that up.
And then you talk.
Shamja, listeners, great to have your company today. And this is a dummy run for dummies like me. Okay, and we've got our first track coming up today. We're going to actually introduce a CD called The Angelic Way, and you've heard it before. And coming right up now is this track called The Angelic Way, and here it is right now. So that goes
Virtues are God's gifts that chart reflections in the human heart. As we practice day by day, life's long journey, the angelic way. Virtues stream from God above. He tells us we must practice love. When we see a world in need, He asks us only plant a seed. So let the virtues speak to you. Reflect, decide on what to do. You can hear the Master say, little by little, day by day. Virtues are God's gifts that chart reflections in the human heart. As we practice day by day, oh God, guide us as we pray today.
Yeah, there you go, The Angelic Way. That's a track off the CD, The Angelic Way. And glad to have your company today, listeners. We've got a special guest in the studio today called Mr. Invisible. And he's, now you see him, now you don't. So, yes, that's a better level, I think, there. Thank you.
You need to watch them.
Yep. Okay, so it's not... Yep. Okay, we're getting the levels right. Okay, good morning. We'd like to introduce you to our visitor this morning, Mr. Invisibility. Nice to... Well, we wish we could see you. Great to have your company today, and we're going to talk about this new Virtue CD that's out. Just sort of, well, just taken over, really. And we're going to play a few tracks off this particular CD. And we're going to cue it up for the next track, which is that one there.
No, you turn it.
I turn it, right. So and there it is. And we're all ready to go. And, of course, we know what the next track is because I have somewhere, that's what I've got. And it's a track of kindness. So, hope you're enjoying this. Kindness, we need more kindness in the world for sure, don't you think? Okay, so here we go with the track Kindness coming up right now.
When you give your dog a pat, or when you stroke your kitty cat, feed the birds upon the tree, catch your mouse and set it free. That's kindness. Kindness. You gotta show that you care. Show that you care. That's kindness. Kindness. Kindness is to share. Oh, oh, that's kindness. Kindness. It's so easy to see. So easy to see. That's kindness. Kindness. Kindness starts with me. There's a new kid at your school, but everybody's acting cool. They're in the playground all alone. Make a friend and ride them home, 'cause that's kindness. Kindness. You gotta show that you care. Show that you care. That's kindness. Kindness. Kindness is to share. Oh, oh, that's kindness. Kindness. It's so easy to see. So easy to see. That's kindness. Kindness. Kindness starts with me. Old Granny Grumpet lives next door. She needs some bread from the grocery store. Now there's a job that you could do. 'Cause Granny Grumpet, we love you. That's kindness, kindness, so easy to see, so easy to see. That's kindness, kindness,
Kindness starts with me. Oh, that's kindness, kindness.
It's so easy to see,
so easy to see. That's kindness, kindness. Kindness starts with me.
That's kindness, kindness.
Do that, but you better bump, but it
Show that you care. That's kindness, kindness. Kindness is to share. Oh, oh, that's kindness, kindness. It's so easy to see, so easy to see. That's kindness, kindness. Kindness starts with me. Kindness starts with me. Kindness starts with me. Kindness starts with who?
Me!
Yeah, kindness starts with me. What a great track. Well, you're on Jam Jar today, listening to you're with Stefan Kingsford Brown. He's your host. Great to have your company with us today, and we've got special guest artists in the studio today, and we'll just punch them in and see if we can. I'm going to go on to, so we're all ready to go with that. Yeah, it's great to have your company today. As I say, it's hope you all had a great time for Mother's Day, because yeah, it was pretty full on. I think pretty full on. That's about where it should be. I think about there. Yeah, yeah, great to have your company today, and we'd like to say a very good morning to Mr. Invisibility over there. Over to you. Yes, he's not saying a lot at the moment. That's because his mic is down. But maybe now. If someone was over there, you'd be able to see what was going on. But anyway, at this point in time, no. Okay. We're going to do another track coming right up, right now. This is the track of Obedience. We all know about obedience. Most kids, they really push that obedience thing right to the, so they get screw every little bit right out of it. Anyway, here we go with a track called Obedience, especially for the listeners, and I hope you're all having a great day today. And you're listening to Jam Jar with Stefan Kingsford Brown. Yeah.
Listen to what your teachers say. Pack your bags and home from school. Stop the bus along the way, following the golden rule of obedience. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Always let obedience. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Always let obedience. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Be your guide. Whoa, my friend. Willpower to follow the rule, even though you feel like a fool. Know your friends can trust you in the end, because of your obedience. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Always let obedience. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Always let obedience. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Be your guide. Whoa, my friend. What your parents say, do your homework into bed. The world is grooving to a better way. I love to hear the children say, we're obedient, yeah, yeah, yeah. We're practicing obedience, yeah, yeah, yeah. Always let obedience, yeah, yeah, yeah. Be your guide. Whoa, my friend.
my favourite part of the song, the sax break. Very nice break by a Wellington friend of mine. Yeah, that little bit of sax there just makes that song. Yeah.
Always let obedience, be your guide. Whoa, my friend. Well, listen to what your teachers say. Pack your bags and home from school.
I thought if I did that,
bus along the way, following the golden rule of obedience. Always let obedience. Hey, always let obedience. Be your guide. Whoa, my friend. Always let obedience, always let obedience, always let obedience, but it'll ever do.
Yeah.
Now you talk.
I'm talking. Okay, there it was. The track Obedience. Mm-hmm. I hope you're obediently listening to it. Okay, so you're listening to Jam Jam with Stefan Kingsford Brown. And now we're going to have a bit of a conversation with our guest artist today. Welcome, Mr. Guest Artist over there. And if there was a guest artist over there, I'll be able to go like that, and it would zap over to him. Yeah, so what brings you here, Mr. Invisibility? Hey. Oh, invisible, yes, I know. You've been practicing the art for quite a while, I hear. Right. Good. You'd like to hear another track? Okay, well, I can give you another track. Let me see. I could give you track 4 if you like, but I think track 6 is probably better because that's Happiness. And I think Happiness is a lot better. So it'd be better if we did the Happiness track, I think. Yeah, the Happiness track would be great. Okay, coming right up, here we go with Happiness. Why not?
Put a smile upon your face, be happy. Happy! Put a grin upon that frown, be happy. Happy! Don't stomp around the room full of doom and gloom. You can change the world when you're happy. Put a smile upon your face, be happy. Happy! Show the human race how to be happy. Happy. So look the world right in the eye, kiss the blues goodbye. Put a smile upon your face, be happy. Put a smile upon your face, be happy. Happy. Put a grin upon that frown, be happy. Happy. Don't stomp around the room full of doom and gloom. You can change the world when you're happy. Put a smile upon your face, be happy. Happy. Show the human race how to be happy. Happy. So look the world right in the eye, kiss the blues goodbye. Put a smile upon your face, be happy.
Well, you've done well there, haven't you, fat cat? That's good.
Hey, it's nice to see you, pal. I've got a few jokes for you, mate.
Have you got a few jokes?
Do you know why the hedgehog crossed the road?
I haven't a clue.
When you see his flatmate.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one, isn't it?
I know, it is, yeah. Hey, how about, do you know what you give a sick pig?
What do you give a sick pig, fat cat?
Ointment.
Ointment, really? Go on. It made me laugh, didn't it?
Hey, but a sick bird.
I don't know. What's
Treatment.
Treatment. Oh, God.
Hey, tell me about the centipede one.
Why is the centipede across the road?
Went to see the chicken.
He's looking for a chicken, eh?
Was he?
Yeah.
Lucky the chicken didn't find him. Put a smile upon your face, be happy. Happy! Put a grin upon that frown, be happy. Happy! Don't stomp around the room full of doom and gloom. You can change the world when you're happy. Put a smile upon your face, be happy. Happy! Show the human race how to be happy. Happy! So look the world right in the eye, kiss the blues goodbye. Put a smile upon your face, be happy. Ooh! Put a smile upon your face, be happy. Put a smile upon your face, be happy. Oh, put a smile upon your face, be happy. Come on now, big smile. Let's be happy.
Yeah, well, let's be happy. Great track there. There's a track off the CD, The Angelic Way, by someone who's a musician and a composer and a musician, and these here parts, who shall remain anonymous at this point in time. Hey, great to have your company today on Jam Jar. You're listening to Stefan Kingsford Brown, and our guest stars is Mr. Invisibility. And so we've got a few questions for him. So what's it like being invisible, Mr. Invisible? Ah, yes. Great, yes. And do you have any favorite tracks of music that you would particularly like to listen to? Like patience, I think you probably have to be fairly patient, I would say, to be invisible. I would think myself, but I could be wrong. But I'm thinking, invisibility would need a lot of patience, because people would probably not actually get your point, because you wouldn't be there to actually make it, I guess, or even get into any sort of argument or discussion or even something. Wow. Okay, but we're going to play this track especially for you, Mr. Invisibility, today, and we invite all the listeners to recognize the fact of being invisible once in a while. It doesn't hurt. It's quite a good little place to place yourself in. So here we go. We're coming up with a track, Patience. That's right. Here we go.
When you're watching TV, it's your favorite stuff. Baby sister is wailing and your mom's in a huff. Your temperature's rising and you've just had enough. Be patient and gentle and calm, 'cause practicing patience is a wonderful thing. No, the more that you practice, the more love it will bring. So be willing to wait for the things that you want. Be patient and gentle and calm. Doi, 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 doi. When you can't find your socks 'cause your room's in a mess, don't go round moaning and blaming the rest. Try to remember where you took 'em off, then they'll be easy to find. 'Cause practicing patience is a wonderful thing. No, the more that you practice, the more love it will bring. So be willing to wait for the things that you want. Be patient and gentle and calm. Doi, 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 doi. Well, your birthday is here, there's a knock at the door. It's Patrick the postman with presents galore. You're ripping off paper, you don't give a damn. Be patient and gentle and calm, 'cause practicing patience is a wonderful thing. Oh, the more that you practice, the more love it will bring. So be willing to wait for the things that you want. Be patient and gentle and calm, 'cause practicing patience is a wonderful thing. And oh, the more that you practice, the more love it will bring. So be willing to wait for the things that you want. Be patient and gentle and calm. Doi, 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 doi. Doi, 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 doi.
Yeah, there you have, practicing patience. I noticed that Mr. Invisibility over there was really practicing patience. He was sort of fading in and out of obscurity and generally dancing around the room so no one could see him. Very, very clever. You're listening to Jam Jar. This is the monthly program. And of course, a big thanks goes out to our sponsor, Mr. Dan Broughton. He's got the Wairarapa web design. He's our sponsor, and without him, we wouldn't be able to do the program. Yeah, but it's great to have you on board, Dan, and we thank you very much for your service. Well, that's the name of the next track we're going to play here. Service, yep. But we won't do that exactly right at this point in time. I'd like to be able to actually ask another question to our person over on the other side. Let me see, what would you call him? Our guest artist, I guess. I was going to say ghost artist because he is invisible. So, Mr. Invisibility, how about telling us how you come you're invisible and not actually visible to the human eye and everyone that knows you as Mr. Invisibility? Yes, I see. Oh, right. And does it hurt at all when this? It doesn't. It's quite a good state to be in. Oh, well, that's interesting. Let me see. So I'm thinking here. The track I've got coming up is called Service, and I guess you're involved in that sort of in service quite a bit with different people. People will get you to go in and just have a little peek because you can't be seen, of course, and it means you can come back with a fairly accurate report of what's going on in any given situation. True. I see. Yes, you do that. What's the pay like anyway? Is it worth? Oh, I see. It doesn't hold a lot. There's not a lot there. Okay, and you're not accepting checks. Oh, okay. Or even banks don't recognise you. That's true. They wouldn't. It must be hard to actually exist on invisibility allowance. Yes, or payment. Yeah, I see. Right. Okay. Well. Let me just play this last track here, which is the track of Service. Yeah, we're looking forward to this track. This track's written by Stefan Kingsford Brown. He's a bit of a musician around here, I guess. And this is off the CD, The Angelic Way. Quite a few amazing artists on this CD, actually. And I'll show it up here so you can actually, listeners can have a look. Quite a nice little, yeah, there it is there. Right next to me, up there. Where are we going to put it? On the other side here, maybe? Up there. Yeah, that looks good. Look at that. Yeah? Great. But yeah, there's a CD, and there's even the picture of moi on the back. You might be able to see it. I'll put it next to me so you can see, like that. Look at that. Is that good or what? Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so here we have the track of Service, and it's coming up right the new.
Weeding the garden, raking the leaves, collecting all the honey from the busy buzzy bees, doing the dishes, feeding the fishes, all helping people in a special kind of way. Service, service with a smile, don't go being like a crocodile. Service, working every day, all helping people in a special kind of way. The fireman putting out the flames, and there's the teacher, they know all our names, and there's a doctor with the stethoscope, writing out prescriptions on a little white note. Building a house, making a road, maybe we're a truckie with a heavy load, planting out the taro neath the coconut trees, all helping people in a special kind of way. Service, service with a smile, don't go being like a crocodile. Service, working every day, all helping people in a special kind of way. 'Cause there's a fireman putting out the flames, and there's the teacher, they know all our names, and there's a doctor with a stethoscope, writing out prescriptions on a little white note. Building a house, making a road, maybe we're a truckie with a heavy load, planting out the taro neath the coconut trees, all helping people in a special kind of way. Service, service with a smile, don't go being like a crocodile. Service, working every day, all helping people in a special kind of way. Service, service with a smile. Don't go being like a crocodile. Service, working every day, all helping people in a special kind of way. All helping people in a special kind of way.
Yeah, there's the virtue of service. Yeah, great little song that. Well, listeners, it's been great having your company today, of course. As usual, we've come to the end of our program, so I'm hoping you have a great month, because this is once a month, this program. We're looking at seeing if we can get people that are willing to. Some people are okay with the interviews, but they're not too keen about getting themselves on live television with the Wairarapa TV, and it's a great thing. I think what Toby's doing here with Wairarapa Television is fantastic, and the more we can do to get to put it on its way to being well established and becoming a thing that Wairarapa, we're already proud of it, but I'm thinking that if it can be, go from strength to strength, we'll have something that's a really something to talk about. So we're going to finish with a track here. It's our last track. It's called Thankfulness, and so we're all go, and we'd like to thank everyone, of course, today that's been with us. Our guest artist, Mr. Visibility, and he's a special sort of guy. When you can see him, and now you see me, now you don't. I've actually never seen him yet, but we thank you for being in the studio today, if you, in fact, you were. And, of course, this track especially for you. It's the last track. It's called Thankfulness, because, indeed, we are thankful. Of course, yes.
Close your eyes and gently say, thank you, God, for a lovely day. The time has come when all little men should close their eyes for the Sandman again. So climb up the stairs, creep into bed. Dreamland is waiting to fill your sweet head with dragons and castles, bold knights of old. At the end of the rainbow, your own pot of gold. Sleeps like you. Wake up morning time, feel brand new. So
well, there you have it, listeners. You've been listening to Jam Jar with Stefan Kingsford Brown. It's great to have your company today, and we're going out on a song called Thankfulness. I hope you have a great month together, and be kind to each other, yeah? Because that's where it's at. The world is pretty unkind pretty unkind sometimes, and we need more kindness. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time round.
Old knights of old, at the end of the rainbow, your own pot of gold.
lost in transit, thinking that we understand. An innocent illusion, travel slow from blue to black. To you and back, you and back, you and back, you and back. To you and back, you and back, you and back, you and back. Could you let it low? Try to make time. Let your guard down at the first sign of a lost cause. But it's okay, 'cause it woke me up in its own way. So if you wanna feel like things are moving on too fast, hands are off the wheel now. Take me down a different path. To you and back, you and back, you and back, you and back. To you and back, you and back, you and back, you and back. No need to write about it, so stay in my head. No need to rise above it, so move on instead. Too many eyes around us to fall low, to fall low. To you and back, you and back, you and back, you and back. To you and back, you and back, you and
This is Arrow FM 92.7, your community access radio station.
Ease your focus when the light's not green. You come and go so soon. You pass them off now as another friend, but nothing special. Since I've seen what you're gonna be, I couldn't leave that loaded gun in your hand. Said no, no, no. Said no, no, and I wish that you would come on down and get involved. And I wish
Don't pass it up now. The colors change through the day. They're looking different already. Since I've seen what you're gonna be, I couldn't leave that loaded gun in your hand. Said no, no, no. Said no, no, and I wish that you would come on down and get involved. And I wish that you would stick around. Just come on down. No, don't you tell me what's on your mind. 'Cause if I hesitate and run or leave that loaded gun in your hand, well, I wish, I wish, I that you would come on down and get involved. And I wish that you would stick around and just come on down, yeah, come on down. And I wish, since I've seen what you're gonna be, that you would come on down and get involved. And I wish, since I've seen what you're gonna be, that you would stick around. But I wish, I wish, I wish.
What is it with you? You make me feel like a doll begging for crumbs. Well, I've been pining, whining, only dining in my head. Food never comes. And my friends take me for a walk to talk. I've been taken for a ride when it should be you in the doghouse. So tell me what the hell I'm outside. You're like a hitman, I know that your baby that's to go there. Yeah, has to go there. You're a love spy who can look at me and lie, but that's to go there. And boy, you are killing me, but I don't care. 'Cause you're like a hitman, I know that your baby has to go there. How did we get here? And tell me, do you care or want to know? And why do I hold every other guy up to our bar that sits so low? Does knowing I'd say yes to you mean less to you than nothing but apart? 'Cause I got nothing to show for the time I've exposed my stupid heart. You're like a hitman, I know that your baby that's to go there. Yeah, has to go there. You're a love spy who can look at me and lie, but that's to go there. Yeah, has to go there. Boy, you are killing me, but I don't care. 'Cause you're like a hitman, I know that your baby that's to go there. I hate you, you confuse me. I love you, don't you leave me. You could be good to me. I can make you freaking happy. I'm the only me you've got. Oh, you love me or you love me not. I'm not sick and tired of being the end of the world. Oh, I'm the only me you've got. Oh, you love me or you love me not. I'm not sick and tired of being the end of the world. You're like a hitman, I know that your baby that's to go there. Yeah, has to go there.
listening to Arrow FM 92.7, your community access radio station.
Kia ora, this program is brought to you by Wellington Access Radio. Wellington Access Radio, make your voice heard.
Tēnā koutou katoa, this is Town and Country Aotearoa, and this program is for the week commencing Monday the 7th of May 2018. If it's Monday night that you're listening, you'll be listening to the host station, Wellington Access Radio, or perhaps Country Radio Dunedin, Country Radio Gore, or Country Radio in Invercargill. If it's midday Tuesday, this is Arrow FM Wairarapa. Wednesday 11am, this is Access Radio Taranaki. Wednesday night and early Monday morning, this is the New Zealand Country Music Radio Network. Fielding, Martin, Fox and Beach Tower, Featherston and Christchurch. Midday Thursday, this is Triple VFM Linwood, Christchurch, also Radio New Brighton and Christchurch. From 3pm Thursday, this is Coast Access Radio, Kapiti and Horowhenua areas there. Wellington's Wellington Access's radio encore broadcast is from midnight on Friday. On Sunday afternoon, this is Northland's Big River FM. It covers Dargaville, the Kaipara, Aranga and Ruai areas, and online we're at kiwifolk.com, specifically 4 a.m. Tuesday, 7 p.m. Wednesday, 11 a.m. Thursday, and that of course is worldwide. On Monday nights from 9 till 11, Town and Country Aotearoa is streamed live at accessradio.org.nz, where you can listen to or download several weeks of programs as free podcasts. Just click on programs, scroll down the long list, bottom left-hand side, find Town and Country Aotearoa, click on that, and you find them. Dedications, you can phone me in the Wellington studio. I'm Eddie. Trev's here also, so he may be the one answering the phone. Monday nights only between 9 and 11 p.m. 04 38 58 783 04 38 58 783. That was Rod Abernathy. He's got a new double album out. One of the albums is entirely instrumentals, and we'll be coming back to some vocal songs from Rod Abernathy shortly. That particular tune, guitar tune of his, Hopscotch being the name of it. Now, we start this week's program with Joe Jenks. Yes, Joe is back with an album that he recorded in Canada. Joe, of course, is American. And the album is called The Forgotten. And it makes sense when you realise that all the songs on the album, and there's a lot of them too, good number, it's about 16 or something, 15 I think, something like that. They're all written by Cy Khan, our friend Cy Khan, or Simon Khan, but they're songs that Cy has never recorded before, and he's given them all to Joe Jenks. Or Joe wanted to sing some of these songs, which Cy had sung live, of course. They do end up in the same folk festivals and on the same circuits and things. And so Joe has called this album The Forgotten, subtitled The Recovered Treasures, or Some Recovered Treasures from the Pen of Cy Khan. We are talking